All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get our program started this afternoon. Drayton McLane Jr. serves as the chairman of the McLane Group and is the former CEO of the Houston Astros Baseball Club. A native Texan, which he's a small town guy. I'm also from a small town, and I love that, so I know he was raised right. This acclaimed businessman, leader, and generous philanthropist ensures the focus of all his endeavors that they are based upon his strong Christian values and moral ethics. I can say personally, our community is such a better place because of Drayton and the work that he does. The grandson of a successful entrepreneur, Drayton experienced firsthand the hard work and dedication it takes to successfully thrive in industry. He began developing his tireless work ethic at age 9 by working for his father at the family's wholesale grocery business, the McLane Company. Mr. McLane received his Bachelor of Business Administration degree from Baylor University in 1958 and his Master of Business Administration degree from Michigan State University in 1959. Upon completion of his formal education, Drayton came back to begin working at the family business, loading trucks on the second shift. He worked his way up, and by earning the respect and admiration of his coworkers, he became president and CEO of the company in 1964 and held these positions for 30 years. During his tenure, he propelled the McLane Company into a $19 billion company, achieving an average growth rate of 30% per year. Following the McLane Company's merger with Walmart, Inc. in 1990, he became vice chairman of Walmart while maintaining his position at the McLane Company. After playing key roles in each of these companies' growth and productivity, he resigned in order to devote more time to the McLane Group, a parent company consisting of family-owned companies operating throughout the world, which until November of 2011 included the Houston Astros, where he served as chairman and CEO. Drayton McLane completed his 19th season with the Astros in 2011 when he sold the team. Over the years, their philosophy remained consistent: bring home a World Series championship to Houston and make a positive difference in the community. Well, they were unable to bring home a championship at that time, but they were the first Texas team to make it to the World Series, and they also made a very positive difference in the community. Please help me welcome Mr. Drayton McLane Jr. to the podium.
Thank you. Lindsay, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Temple.
Thank you.
I just met Lindsay, and she is from Bahia, and I'm from Cameron, and I told her neither of us are very sophisticated. So we're here to learn today, and I was very impressed with that last panel discussion. I'm not sure I understood all of the high-powered technology that they were talking about, but that's life today. I first want to thank the Governor Abbott, for sponsoring these small business seminars, not only in Temple, but throughout Texas. It's the lifeblood of Texas. Now, if I were sponsoring them, I would have called them not small business, but maybe emerging business, or business on the way to the moon, or something a little more dynamic. But I don't think we realize how important new businesses that are emerging with new ideas is important to the economy. There are approximately 8 billion people living in the world. There's 340 million living in the United States. Well, do the math, that's less than 5%. People that live in America are less than 5% of the people that live in the world. Aren't we lucky to have this, to live in the United States, and to have democracy and life great like we do, and to live in Texas and have it? But 5% of the people of the world in Texas, or in the United States. But we possess, in the United States, 37% of the wealth of the world. We have 5% of the people and 37% of the wealth of the world. Why is that? I think the first is is our faith that we have in America, our Christian principles, or whatever your faith is so important. That's number one. Number two, we have entrepreneurs, men and women that go in business and have big ideas. They're the lifeblood of America. And if you look at all the inventions, the mobile phone that every one of us possess, was that invented by AT&T, the largest phone company in the world? No. That was invented by Apple, a small company. Look at them today. Apple today is the largest corporation in value in the world. If you look at their stock value, it's over $1 trillion. When I went to Baylor, we didn't go past million. Now we're in the trillions. An entrepreneurial company, but we can just look around all over. I knew Walmart when it was very, very small. I knew Sam Walton, and he had, in 1962, he had 7 Ben Franklins. Anybody know what a Ben Franklin variety store was? He had 7 of those in Northwest Arkansas, small communities. And he had heard outside of Detroit, Michigan in 1961 about a company, the Kresge Company, opened a store right outside of Detroit, and they called it Kmart. He thought, wow. So he went, drove up to Michigan, saw that, came home, told his wife, Helen, I'm going to sell all of the Ben Franklin stores and build a discount store. And Helen said, I asked him, what's a discount store? Look at Walmart today. Walmart today is the largest corporation in the history of the world. This year, they'll do $587 billion worth of business. It's hard to imagine. They're doing it in 29 countries all over the world, and they have 1.8 million employees out of a company that started in Bentonville, Arkansas. When I first started going there, it was a town of 4,000. So I'd just like to talk about who you are and what your potential is and what you can do. It's just unbelievable. It's staggering. So what's the first ingredient? Leadership. You. You've got to elevate yourself. You have so much potential. And you have to provide the leadership and think about it. And if you'll go back and talk to highly successful people, they say where most businesses fail, they don't set a goal. They just go into business. We're going to go into this type of retailing business, and they don't have a real set strategy. So the first thing you got to do is be bold. Sit down, take time, talk to your partners, talk to others that you believe in, and set some goals. What you want to look like in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. Be bold. The second thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to change. In 1972, I went to a grocery meeting in Chicago, and the first speaker was the CEO of the Kroger Company, then and today, the largest supermarket chain. The Kroger Company president came out and he said something that I try to think about every morning when I get up. He said to the group, you'll never become what you want to be by remaining as you are. May I say that again? You'll never become what you want to do by remaining as you are. We have to change. And that's what business is all about. That's why your opportunity is so good, because the world is in great transition in what they're doing and saying. So I said, the first thing you got to do is take some time. What's your goal? Then, what is your business plan, your strategy? Write it down. Be bold enough to express it to other people. Here's what I'm trying to do. Get their reaction. Most people don't have a plan for their life. I heard a speaker, his name was Louis Timberlake. He was a motivational speaker, and he said the sad thing about human beings, that they will spend more time planning their annual vacation than they do planning their life. We just emerge. We go from day to day to week to months to years. Come back. Put some plans down, some ideas. You don't have to achieve them all. But thanks about the plans. All of us, when from elementary school to middle school to high school to college, we always wanted to be in the 95 percentile. Isn't that what your parents told you? You'll be an entrepreneur. That doesn't always occur. There is nothing wrong with making mistakes. In McLane Company, I'd get our executives together regularly, and I'd talk to them. And I told them we had one of our goals in running McLane Company was honesty, integrity, high Christian principles in everything we did. Stand out in the sunlight. But I said, there's no problem about making a mistake. So I told them, what I want you to think about were three things in doing something bold. Number one, you can't violate a law, you go to jail. You can't violate your integrity or somebody else's integrity. And then number three, if it blows up, are you still alive? And the other one I left out, don't bet the store on it. If you only have $100, only bet $30 on it. So if it blows up, you still got $70 left. You're alive, might have blown off of your clothes, but you're alive. And then you've learned something. You move forward. As she was talking about, I was involved with the Houston Astros for 19 years, and I was just utterly amazed. I didn't know a great deal about baseball. So you need to have a little better strategy than I did. I'd been to 3 major league games in my entire life when I bought the Houston Astros. But you can figure things out as you go. I didn't really understand the percentages in baseball. And the first year that we owned the Astros, we were at spring training, getting ready to start the season. You play 162 games in Major League Baseball every year. And so I called our general manager and our field manager together, and I said, we're fixing to start the season in 1993. I want each of you to tell me how many games we're going to win this year. He said, what? I said, how many games? You remember, planning is all about what we're supposed to do. I said, how many games are we going to win this year? And Bill Wood was the general manager, and he said, Drayton, he'd been in baseball for almost 40 years. He said, Drayton, we don't do that in Major League Baseball. I said, well, what do we do in baseball? He said, we play it one game at a time. I said, well, Bill, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to set some goals. And they said, well, if this is all your idea, how many games do you think we ought to win? I remember we're going to play 162. I said, why don't we set a goal to win 140 of them? They looked stunned, and they said, Drayton, that time baseball was in its 97th year. And said, if we win 140 games, that's never been done in 97 years. I said, wow, what is it? They told me that if you can win somewhere around 62 to 63% of your games, you win your division. Who won the World Series last year? Astros. They played 162 games. How many do you think they won? They won 106. So, as they won 162 games, they won 65% of their games. I'll ask you this question. Maybe there's some bankers here. If you told a banker you wanted to borrow $1 million from him, and there was a 62% chance you'll pay him back, what do you think he'd tell you? He'd probably call security and say, get this guy out of here. So you can go to the World Series. Astros won the World Series. They won 62% of their game. That's not bad enough. If you look how they play players, who is the best Astro player and maybe one of the best top 5 players in baseball? Altuve, Jose Altuve. He's from Venezuela. I knew him, we drafted him when we were there. Just like many of you, Jose is going to make $27 million this year for playing 162 games. But you need to think about something. Why do the Astros pay him $27 million? Anybody say? Because he can hit. But think about this. Last year, his batting average percentage was 300. So what does that mean? For every 10 times he comes to bat, he's going to achieve 3 hits. Would that get you out of the first grade? A 30? And he's getting $27 million this year. It's that hard to do. I didn't know all about baseball, but I found out later, you can talk to football coaches, baseball coaches, the single most difficult thing to do in any sport is to hit a baseball. Because it's coming at you at 97 miles an hour and it's going to curve just before it gets there, and you got a little thin bat and you got to hit it. But it's hard to do. So that's why he gets $27 million. He can do what few others can do, but it's high risk. Here we're into the season in about 6 weeks. How many games has Jose played in this year? 0. He broke his hand in spring training. So they're paying him $27 million. He's been on the bench, probably be on the bench another 2 more months. Is that high risk? Sure it is. So I'm challenging you. You're not going to totally achieve what you want to achieve unless you put some risk in it. You got to be bold. Got to be doing. So failure, difficulties is supposed to be part of being an entrepreneur. But the important part is you talk to these baseball players, and I talk to many of them. The hardest thing for them, they usually in the 162 games they play, they come to bat 4 times. They get in terrible slumps. And it affects their approach to hitting and getting them out of the slumps. The slumps is very hard. On every major league team, active players is only 25. We've got all kind of coaches. You know who the most important coach is on every team? You have one of them, a psychological coach. Because they make mistakes all the time. They strike out in the 9th inning when they could have won the game. It bothers them. They go to bed at night. I struck out 4 times today. They're thinking about it. So they've got to lift themselves up because failure is greater than success. So as you approach your business, don't let difficulty and heartaches bother you. The other 2 things to talk about, discover yourself. Figure out who you really are and what you want to do. And ask some other people that really care about you who you are, who they think you are. It's amazing. We, in McLane Company years ago, got a very involved, it was developed by a man, Dr. Roger Berkman in Houston, a psychologist, a assessment test. It wasn't an intelligence assessment test. And this is back in the 70s, and I took the first one. And Dr. Berkman sent it back to me, and I said, this is wrong. This is not me. So I took it home to Elizabeth, and I said, this is no good. We're not going to use it. That's not me. She read it, and she said, that is you. You do all those things. You got to understand yourself. You have such incredible potential, but you got to see where you are. So discover yourself. Take some time. Take some time by yourself. We're basically frightened to be by ourselves. But if you're really going to be that entrepreneur, you got to understand who you are and where your weaknesses are. And that was what Dr. Berkman said. He said, you don't need to work on the things you're doing good. You need to work on the things that you're not doing good, to how to become a more rounded individual. And then the last one is human potential. If you'll watch Altuve, he is only 5'2" from Venezuela. But he can hit a baseball farther than anybody I've ever seen. Or you see a great pitcher that can throw 98-mile-an-hour curveballs. Or mathematician, or these technology guys that were right here. I'm not sure I understood everything they were saying, and I knew several of them. You don't have to figure out everything. You got to get people that can help you understand. So the human potential, but you're the spark plug. They talked about all this technology, and I've tried to use it in McLane Company and McLane Group and other Astros technology real fast, but it's a tool. You're the deal right here and right here. That's what really gets you. So the human potential is just incredible for where you are. And so I encourage you, small businesses can emerge into great things. And I was talking to several of them a while ago that I knew them when they were back in their early 20s, and see them today, highly successful businessmen. They've accomplished a great deal. You know, making money is fun, but the sense of accomplishment, the sense of serving people and doing great things for people. I love to stand at the exit of the Minute Maid Park when we had won a game and see how happy people were. Whatever their problems were before the game, they were happy. You were contributing something. Several of you are in the food business. Boy, there is nothing better than eating pepperoni pizza that we had here and that dessert that I saw a while ago. I'm going to focus on that again in a few minutes. What you do is noble. You're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, but there's so many things you can do, or a combination of all of those things. The last idea I'd like to be, could I ask you a question? Where were you all in June of 1959? None of you were born, and I'll bet none of your parents were born. But in June 1959, I was in East Lansing, Michigan. I was finishing up an MBA course, and there were 72 in our 2-year program. And I thought we had really worked hard, and the others do. But just before the graduation, the dean of the Graduate School of Business, his name was Dr. Kenneth Wilson. And he could talk, and he was so crystal clear. So he brought the 72 of us into a room about like this and said, I want to congratulate you. You're going to be graduating, and your parents and your wives and husbands and all are going to be so proud of you. But he said, I'm not sure in 2 years we've taught you anything that's going to have lasting value. I thought, what? Been here for 2 years, all those case studies, all that other stuff we had to go through. And he said, I'm not sure we've taught you anything that will have long-term lasting value. But he said, I'd like to mention 4 things that can totally change your life. May I mention those 4 to you? Uncomplicated. People from Mahale will understand. Number 1, dare to dream. It's free. This was before computers. Computers make it even worse. We got the most powerful computer right here. Go sit under a tree this afternoon. Don't go back to work. Go sit under a tree. Dare to dream. Let it rip. Dare to dream. It's free. Number 2, operate out of your imagination, not your memory. He said, what's clogged in your mind is your mistakes. We think about that. He said, eliminate them. Go forward with your memory. I was thinking in 1952, I was in Yale High School in Cameron, and I was a junior in high school. And I asked the prettiest girl in school to go to the movies with me. What do you think she told me? No. I still remember that. I can tell you where I was standing in the hallway. That's worthless. His second one was operate out of your imagination, not your memory. The third one's hard. In everything you do, seek adversity. the lines are shorter. It's kind of hard to deal with. Everything you do, seek adversity. Seek the hard way to do it. I remember going to Baylor, and maybe you had to take a geometry course, and there were 5 different professors teaching it. I would try to find out from my friends who was the easiest teachers. Anybody else remember that? Which one's going to grade easier or wasn't going to give as much homework? As human beings, if we're going to go play golf or tennis, isn't it fun to go beat somebody? When I came back to Cameron, a fellow that owned the Cameron Herald, his name was Frank Lukey. He had played on the University of Missouri tennis team. I sure hadn't, but he was better than I am. He beat the thunder out of me. But I could beat everybody else after I hung out with Frank for about 3 years. In everything you do, seek adversity. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, walk with elephants. Thought that was unusual. He said, let me give you a story. He said, picture you're in Africa and there are 2 huge peaks. And between those 2 peaks is a swinging cable bridge. And a flea and an elephant walked across that swinging bridge, and it bounced up and down as they went across. When they got to the other side, the flea said to the elephant, we shook things up, didn't we? Find the elephants in life, and they can be rewarded. Thanks. All right.